Hello there. Welcome to my, well, I'm not really calling them wastecasts anymore because it's a little bit self-deprecating and I, I don't, there's a bit of a connotation with Sikhs and the caste system, which actually, just like the Masonic guild system, was quite good once upon a time. What was also quite good once upon a time were X-rays, but there's this thing called NHI, right? And it stands for non-human intelligence. If you look up Helena Blavatsky, she was a part of something, a religion or a faith called Theosophy. It's actually pretty cool, but then it turned into a bunch of militant racists, and it was really bad. But to start with, it was quite good. Anyway, I got a D in maths, right, from Sand School in Ashburton, and I do know quite a lot about particle physics. Like I know kind of like quite a lot about quite a lot, but I don't like know everything, if that makes sense. And you would have to pretty much know everything to make this thing work. But I'm working on two microchips at the moment, which are like Swiss Army knives. And this is a product which I am looking to sign over to my brother Connor McLeod so that he's got something to keep him going, because it's probably worth a fortune. So with that intriguing introduction, it's like got a value, they reckon, about 40 billion quid. And so there's this thing, right, called Doppler shifting, just to make it's really complicated, but it's also kind of simple. Doppler shifting is when you're on the street, right, and a fucking motorbike comes past you, and it goes, you know what I mean? It's like, when it changes pitch. That's the sound waves, the particles of sound waves. Oh, fuck off, fucking AI camera cunt. That's the waves being like far apart. Oh, fuck off. And then closer together. So that's the thing. They use it in anti-gravitics and yeah, just dot red and blue. Now magenta, right? Pink. I haven't got anything pink in my fucking room. I could show you. You know what the colour fucking pink looks like anyway, don't you? Because unless you've got the misfortune of being colourblind, pink stuff doesn't exist basically. There's something called angstroms. That's what you measure light in. Okay. I'm going to put my credibility glasses on for this bit. So yeah, angstroms are what you measure light in, not sort of photons. Photons are light particles, and phonons are sound particles. And time crystals are so weird I can't be bothered to explain it, and qubits are really complicated as well. So just go and Google it. You've got a fucking AI on your phone. Just do what I did. Maybe you'll come up with, I got let's have a look. I got a fucking, I'll show you my photo gallery. I got a valuation for this company the other day, that Vortex Q. It says if I get 25% of the critical infrastructure sectors, I'll make about 45.25 billion a year. And if I got deep tech multiples, I don't really know what a deep tech multiple is, but it could be if I sold more than 25% in 10 years time. They reckon it would be a value between 360 billion, 540 billion. Which is about 900 billion, and this thing I've just made is probably worth like about as much, 100, well, not about as much, but enough, just enough to make me a trillionaire. So I'm hoping I'll get there before Elon Musk. We have got the same birthday. If he can build some of these for me in time for our birthday, maybe we could share a nice line of cocaine, or a cheesy pastry over a coffee. That'd be lovely. If you do want to rip me off, Elon, you're welcome to steal my technology. I'll send you the original notes, my secret sauce, tell you how it works. Yeah, NHI, non-human technology. I used a piece of blue lapis lazuli to channel this information. I've got it here. I'll put it There you go. It's this blue sort of marbly stuff with this quartz like pyrite that goes through it. And if you hold it in your hand, it makes you feel really smart and very intellectual. Much like I'm not either of those things, but it did work, and I managed to just put the answers up. I made it on Grok, right? And I've been struggling like fuck to get this fucking Grok thing to work. I've got the link to it, but not the you can't see the full text. I've just managed to extract the full text, so fuck it, let's get into it. I'll read you the full text. With my stupid hat and my fucking £30 glasses on. I'm gonna have a vape, do my best, well, a mediocre job. It's fucking 4 in the morning now. I just haven't gone to sleep. I've taken all my meds, but I can't sleep. I've got a computer monitor arriving tomorrow. Got myself a nice keyboard here, which has got like this bondage rubber on it and like orange keys and a nice new mouse. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get lots of money, and I'm going to give it to all the poor people in the world, just like Bill Gates. In fact, Bill Gates was biting my style by fucking trying to give all his money away, so fuck him. Well, not fucking fair play to him, but you know, giving money to me is like giving water to a fish. You know, I do need it, I like it, but you give a shark a bucket of water, he's not going to go out of his way to please you, you know. Anyway, that's enough about my nihilistic, fucking delusional bullshit. Have some of this writing instead. It'll make you feel good. Where is it? Somewhere here. There you go. It's a research thing. I'll open it up. It's based on a Grok page that I did. But I said to give it a journalistic tone, which always makes it sound a bit sort of like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's like, it's really informal and casual and sort of like not very scientific. And this is for people who aren't going to believe this thing works, that it even exists. You know, they're going to say that I'm just some psychiatric patient and I don't have some genetic extraterrestrial connection. So anyway, from the top, it reads, the post-radiology era, how non-ionizing holographic imaging is rewriting the rules of medicine, aerospace, and deep tech valuation. Imagine a bustling trauma centre. A patient arrives with a severely fractured tibia following a high-speed collision. For the last 100 years, the standard operating procedure has remained fundamentally unchanged. Stabilise the patient, wheel them into a lead-lined room, clear the medical staff from the area, and bombard the injured limb with ionising radiation to capture a two-dimensional shadow of the image. The result is a flat grayscale snapshot, a vital but rudimentary map that a surgeon must mentally translate into a three-dimensional surgical plan. Now, envision a radically different scenario. A paramedic at the scene of an accident wraps a lightweight flexible cuff around a patient's leg. Within seconds, emitting less energy than a standard mobile phone, the device maps the internal dielectric properties of the limb. Simultaneously, spatial computing engine processes this data and projects a high-resolution, full-colour, three-dimensional hologram of the shattered bone directly into the air above the stretcher. This thing works, it's real, and if you want, you can look at the science behind it. I'll leave a link in the comments. The surgeon, wearing a lightweight visor, can reach into the hologram, rotate it, slice it, and plan the exact angle of osteomy, sorry about that, before the patient even reaches the surgical theatre. There's no lead room, there's no waiting, and most importantly, there's absolutely zero exposure to harmful ionising radiation. This is not a speculative science fiction. There's technological scaffolding required to manifest this exact scenario. Currently exists in laboratories and early stage commercial rollouts across the globe, in bits but not in functionality. So through the convergence of microwave tomographic type imaging, deep neural networks, and computational diffractive holography, the ability to view a holographic display of a broken bone without an X-ray has transitioned from a theoretical impossibility to a demonstrable reality. These are all the sort of things. Some of them are peer-reviewed. You click on the little thing. I'll send a link to the document. You can read it, and I think I'm going to donate this one to my brother because he's a very good lad, and Serves has some nice things in his life. Yet, it reads, the physics underlying this medical miracle, the manipulation of non-ionizing electromagnetic waves, and the solving of complex inverse scattering problems to reconstruct hidden geometries refuses to be confined to the hospital ward. The exact same technological principles are currently being militarized to allow next-generation fighter pilots to command swarms of autonomous loyal wingmen, drones via holographic visors, being utilised by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, to generate real-time video through solid concrete walls. They are being deployed by aerospace industry to peer inside the microscopic honeycomb structures of spacecraft without destroying them. This report serves as an exhaustive, journalistically engaging deep dive into the mechanics of this paradigm shift. It will explore the physics that makes non-ionizing bone imaging possible, the computational leaps bringing holograms out of headsets and into the physical room, and the sprawling cross-sector applications of these technologies, and ultimately the financial arithmetic required to value the deep tech enterprises powering this multi-billion-pound evolution. Be Conor McLeod with a nice car and a big house, hopefully. Part 1. Escaping the ionizing trap, how we see a bone without an X-ray. So, since Willem Rontigen's discovery in 1895, the medical imaging of the human skeleton has been dominated by a single physical interaction, density attenuation. X-rays operate by firing high-energy photons through the body. Dense materials like calcium block the photons, while soft tissues let them pass, creating a negative shadow, while modern iterations such as computed tomography, CT scanner, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, DXA, I'm not a doctor, so that's why I can't say it, have drastically improved in freedom. They can carry an inescapable biological cost. Ionizing radiation damages cellular DNA, severely limiting the frequency of use, particularly in pediatric, pregnant, and oncology demographics. Again, if you get this Gemini and you've got Gemini, then you can balls it right up, like I just have by pressing the wrong button. Yeah, that's where we were, wasn't it? Loyal wingman, exhaustive journalistic engaging deep dive, see a bone without an X-ray. There's your fucking PubMed peer-reviewed fucking shit, so it's not bullshit. They have drastically improved in resolution. They carry an inescapable biological cost. Ionizing radiation damages cellular DNA, as I've already read, severely limiting the frequency of use, particularly in pediatric, pregnant, and oncology demographics. Furthermore, it goes on to say, traditional radiographs are entirely blind to the earlier stages of bone healing. As a fracture begins to mend, soft, highly vascularized bone tissue callus bridges the gap. Because this early tissue lacks calcium density, it remains invisible to X-rays, leaving doctors blind to the healing process until weeks later. What was that someone doing, Marbs? Where are we? Blind to the healing progress until weeks later when the calcium salts finally deposit. To project a holographic image of a bone without X-rays, the imaging system must rely on a completely different dialect of physics. Today, researchers are successfully replacing ionizing radiation with non-ionizing microwaves. near-infrared light, and advanced ultrasound. The physics of microwave tomography. This thing already exists, but the vanguard of non-ionizing deep tissue imaging is microwave tomography, MWT, and microwave imaging, MWI. Instead of measuring physical density, MWT maps the internal structure of the body by measuring dielectric contrast. Biological tissues react differently to radio frequency and microwave signals based on their water content and electrical properties. Healthy cortical bone, trabecular or spongy bone, muscle, fat, and blood all possess distinctly different single pole Debye parameters. Now, a mathematical measure of how material polarization responds to alternating electric field over time. When a bone fractures, internal microvessels rupture, causing blood and other fluids to fill the flat fracture gap. This creates an immediate and stark permittively, I don't even know what that says. Permittivity is what it says. Discontinuity. A sharp dielectric contrast against the surrounding solid bone. Microwave modern scanners utilize arrays of compact ultra-wideband antennas such as antipodal Vivaldi antennas to transmit low-power microwaves, typically at the 0 to 5 GHz to 11.1 GHz range, directly through the limb. These waves scatter upon hitting the dielectric boundaries and the fracture. The receiving antenna can then collect these scattered electromagnetic fields. The challenge lies in the reconstruction. So reconstructing a comprehensive image from these scattered waves is exceptionally difficult due to the multiple scattering interactions inside the heterogeneous human body, creating what physicists call an ill-posed electromagnetic inverse scattering problem. Scat is actually, as well as being a great tune, is a particularly vile type of pornography. Don't Google it. Well, you probably will now, I've told you, but just you're going to wish you haven't. To solve this, computational imaging engines deploy heavy algorithms such as the distorted Born iterative method paired with iterative method with adaptive thresholding for compressed sensing. By applying L2 based regulation to filter out background noises, the system mathematically reconstructs the dielectrical properties of hidden tissue into a coherent 3D volumetric map. The resolution capabilities of this technology have now crossed the threshold of clinical viability. Experimental setups utilizing synesthetic aperture radar techniques operating in the 8 to 3 to 11.1 GHz range have successfully detected and precisely located the transverse bone fractures as small as 1 millimeter in width and 13 millimeters deep, even when obscured by layers of skin and muscle. This is what they've got at the moment. Bypassing the image, deep neural networks for instant triage, whilst reconstructing a 3D image is vital for surgical planning. A secondary branch of microwave diagnostics removes the computationally heavy imagery and construction entirely in favour of sheer speed. In emergency scenarios, generating a visual image display may be less critical than a rapid binary diagnosis of a fracture. Researchers at the University of Waterloo have successfully paired inexpensive wireless communication antennas with deep neural networks to diagnose fractures almost instantaneously. By transmitting low-frequency microwaves across a suspected fracture site, the system captures a raw S-parameter profile, which is the scattering matrices of our radio frequency waves. Instead of converting these complex parameters into a visual image, the raw data is fed directly into a DNN, which has then been trained on extensive data sets of healthy and fractured human anatomies. The AI acts as an invisible radiologist, so it can instantly classify complex fracture types, distinguishing between transverse, oblique, and comminuted breaks, and even estimate the length of the internal cracks. because the energy is used is completely benign, less than that emitted by a standard mobile phone. This technology offers unprecedented portability. It enables instant point of care triage by first responders, sports medical teams on the field, or staff in retirement homes, entirely circumventing the logical bottleneck of hospital radiology departments. So you've got near infrared and REMs, the complementary wavelengths. Microwaves are not the only non-ionizing tools being deployed to visualize the unseen. Near-infrared monitoring at Saarland University, a medical research team led by Professor Birgitte Gantz, has pioneered the use of near-infrared light to monitor bone healing, so solving the exact blind spot of X-rays mentioned earlier. Using commercially available pocket-sized devices that emit non-harmful LED and laser light, doctors can penetrate through the skin and muscle down to the underlying bone tissue by measuring the blood supply and the oxygen saturation in the highly vascularized early stage callus. The device can instantly tell a physician how well a fracture is healing weeks before X-rays could detect any calcium buildup. It's a bit ambiguous, this document, this thing. It's not exactly talking about the thing I've invented. It's just sort of talking about sort of technology that exists and like not really about this thing. Radio frequency echographic multispectrometry is called REMS. Companies like Echolight have introduced REMS technology, which utilizes simple ultrasound scans to measure bone density and microarchitecture at an axial anatomical site like the spine and the femur. Those spectral and statistical analysis REMS provides a T-score, Z-score, and a 5-year fragility fracture risk without a single dose of radiation, making it uniquely suited for continuous longitudinal monitoring of pregnant, pediatric, and oncology patients. So bone MRI, synthetic CTs, taking a computational approach, technologies like bone MRI utilize deep learning algorithms to generate a 3D high-resolution synthetic CT image of bone structures derived entirely from a standard radiation-free MRI scan. Originally designed, I'm going to smoke some vape, to view soft tissue, the MRI data is processed by the AI to map the osseous anatomy, providing pediatric orthopedic surgeons with the precise geometry needed for spine injury without exposing developing child to massive radiation dose as a CT scan does. By synthesizing microwave tomography, near-infrared vascular mapping, and synthetic MRI generation, the medical field now possesses the raw three-dimensional data of the human skeleton without firing a single ionizing photon. The next step is bringing that data out of the computer and into the physical room. Part 2, the display revolution, bringing the bone into the physical world. Capturing the 3D data is only the first half of the diagnostic equation. Second half is how the physician interacts with it. So the human anatomy is fundamentally three-dimensional, yet for decades, surgeons have been forced to evaluate 3D pathologies on 2D flat screen monitors, consistently looking away from the patient to check a screen across the room. Advanced computing has paved the way for spatial computing in medicine, where data sets from microwave tomographic scanners or bone MRI are translated into fully interactive mid-air holograms. However, achieving this requires overcoming one of the most stubborn physiological hurdles in optics, and that's eradicating the divergence accommodation conflict. You don't know what that is, neither do I. Let's find out. Early attempts, it is about 4:30 in the morning, by the way. Yeah, it's 4:35. And I've taken my meds, which is why I'm slurring a little bit. I've taken clonazepam and zopiclone. I should be asleep, but I just got a phone call from my mate and I managed to get this text. It's very hard to get fucking text out of Grok. You can get a link to Grok, but you got to bounce it around the fucking internet to try and get it to fucking, put it into an AI. So early attempts at 3D visualization relied on stereoscopic headsets, standard VR, that presented slightly different 2D images to each eye to create an illusion of depth. This inherently triggers the sort of vergence accommodation conflict when wearing a VR headset, the user's eyes physically converge, which is called vergence, on a virtual object floating in the foreground, but the lenses of the eyes must remain focused, as they call it, accommodation, on the fixed physical screen positioned millimeters from their face. This sensory mismatch causes profound eye fatigue, nausea, and disorientation, rendering standard stereoscopic VR completely unusable for delicate multi-hour surgical procedures. True computational diffractive holography solves this limitation by manipulating light at its most fundamental level. Rather than tricking the brain with too flat images, holographic display engines manipulate the phase and amplitude of light waves to recreate the exact light field that a physical object would emit in the real world. Companies like the UK-based VidQ are pioneering this space. They're by partnering with wavelength designers like Dispelix and display manufacturers like Jack and Wood. VidQ has developed a highly dense liquid crystal on silicon display and advanced waveguide combiners. These optical engines allow a user's eye to naturally focus at variable depths from 10 centimeters away to optical infinity simultaneously. Mental aim. The digital progression behaves exactly like a physical object. There is no nausea, no eye fatigue, and no disconnect from reality. The hologram is retina resolution, rendering complex volumetric structures with lifelike clarity. So, holographic surgery in practice. The implementation of these holographic displays is already altering the geometry of the operating theatre. Systems like FDA-cleared Holoscope Eye, developed by Real View Imaging, generate interactive, real-time medical holograms suspended in free space. Surgeons can intuitively reach their hands into the holographic projection of a patient's fractured pelvis, rotate it 360 degrees, slicing through the digital tissue to examine internal tubercular structures and marking clinical points of interest with sub-millimeter accuracy. In orthopedic oncology and complex joint replacements, mixed reality MR headsets utilizing holography software are provided surgeons with literal X-ray vision. At Mount Sinai Hospital, orthopedic surgeons have performed total hip anthroplasties using AI smart glasses. The system dramatically superimposes a high-resolution holographic map of the patient's internal anatomy, the surgical instruments, and the intended trajectory of the joint implant directly onto the surgical site. This completely eliminates the need for the surgeon to look away from the patient. Clinical studies measuring the efficacy of 3D holographic models in preoperative planning for bone sarcomas demonstrated a significant reduction in the NASA task load index, a standard metric for cognitive workload. The surgeons reported vastly superior spatial awareness of the tumours, leading to more precise osteotomies, shorter operative times, and a minimised risk of damaging delicate growth plates in paediatric patients. The holofurion, computing with light. Projecting the sheer volume of data required to generate real-time holograms of a beating heart or a healing fracture is taxing for traditional silicon-based computers. As a result, researchers are exploring the integration of optical holography directly into artificial intelligence through devices known as the holographic photonic neuron, or the holofuron. Developed by researchers like Vincent Daria, the holofuron reimagines the classical van der Loop optical correlator. It functions by memorizing an array of matched filters with a single four-phase hologram. It achieves this by linking specific elements in an array to unique states of orbital angular momentum. Property of light, where the waveform twists in a helical corkscrew pattern as it propagates through space. When the holofuron successfully recognizes a pattern, whether aligning complex DNA sequences, identifying a virus genome, or mapping the dielectric contrast of a bone fracture. It yields photons tagged with specific OAM states. Because this correlation is completely independent of light intensity, the resulting OAM photons can be utilized as transmission protocols for qubits in a quantum computing system. The holofuron establishes a fundamental light-speed AI device for pattern recognition that mimics the human brain, laying the groundwork for a highly scalable neuromorphic quantum photonic processor. This means the AI interpreting the microwave scan and the engine rendering the hologram will eventually operate at the speed of light, which is pretty cool. Right, I'm going to read this fucking shit now. So you've got medical, holographic, and non-ionizing modalities. Microwave tomography, DNA microwave scanning, near-infrared monitoring, REMs, echo light, bone MRI, and diffractive holography, provided by RealView and VidQ. Their core mechanisms, as we described, right? One of them, the top one, maps tissue dielectric contrast by radio frequency inverse scattering. The other one uses S parameter profile classification via deep neural nets. One of them measures blood supply and O2 saturation via an LED or a laser, and radio frequency echographic multispectrometry. One of them also uses AI-generated synthetic CT from medical resonance imaging data and waveguide combiners manipulating light phase amplitude. Primary clinical benefit, if you can remember what all the top rows were: deep tissue fracture imaging without ionizing radiation, instant portable binary fracture diagnosis, detects early stage callus formation, which is of course invisible to X-ray, radiation-free bone density and fragile risk scoring, and high-resolution 3D bone maps without CT radiation. It solves a divergence accommodation conflict in interactive 3D. So diagnostics and triage is target stage, along with pre-hospital emergency, post-op healing, chronic and pediatric care, surgical planning, and interoperative navigation. Part 3, beyond, I'll take my glasses off, okay? Beyond the hospital, aerospace, defence, and the loyal wingman. I don't really want to sell, loads of fucking stuff that's going to kill people. I really don't want to sell to the military or to like BAE Systems or Lockheed Martin, but I'm probably going to. Let's just hope the RAF get it and not the fucking Russians. Or maybe the other way around, if you're Russian and you're watching this. Part 3, beyond the hospital, aerospace, defence, and the law wingman. So the mathematical architecture and hardware systems required to execute microwave holography and spatial computing are highly agnostic. The exact same physics that allow a doctor to detect a microfracture in a human tibula using radio waves can be calibrated to detect structural fatigue in a stealth fighter jet, or to see through the walls of an urban compound. The cross-sector product development potential is absolutely staggering. So seeing through walls, next generation tactical and rescue tech. The unique ability of microwaves to penetrate dense materials like drywall, concrete, and brick has given rise to sophisticated through-wall imaging systems. This technology is rapidly migrating from the laboratory into the hands of the military, law enforcement, and search and rescue teams. The National Institute of Standard and Technology, the ones who wrote that shit report about 9/11, NIST, has pioneered a revolutionary system known as MWIDAR, which is microwave image detection, analysis, and ranging. Traditional radar setups rely on a single transmitter sending out a wave and multiple receivers catching the echoes. The MWIDAR system inverses this configuration entirely. It uses a vast array transmitters and a single sensitive receiver. By exploring multipath scattering, the way microwaves bounce off multiple objects and illuminate concealed spaces through ricochets, the system mathematically reconstructs the space behind the obstruction. Because the sampling occurs at the speed of light, only taking a few microseconds to formulate an image frame, the MWidR can generate real-time video of objects moving behind solid walls. Pretty cool. This technology is profound product development avenues for firefighters. Portable microwave imagers can locate human bodies in smoke-filled burning buildings where thermal cameras fail. In space defense, the microsecond amp sampling speed allows for the tracking of millimeter-sized space debris or hypersonic missiles traveling at a speed exceeding 20,000 miles an hour from vast standoff distances. Concurrently, tactical systems like DEP-Life, developed by the Department of Homeland Security, have miniaturized this technology into handheld devices for law enforcement. They're upgraded with advanced motion compensation algorithms to account for the breathing of the operator or the vibrations of a hovering drone. These mobile microwave scanners allow ground forces to accurately map the interior of a hostile structure, confirming the presence and movement of occupants through solid concrete before initiating a tactical breach. That sounds like bullshit, but it's not. You can read it if you look at that thing there. Maybe that one there. You can find that on dhs.gov. Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. Non-destructive testing, NDT, in aerospace manufacturing. So the aerospace industry relies heavily on advanced composite materials, honeycomb structures, and radar-absorbent polyurethane foams, such as those shielding the space shuttle. Ensuring the structural integrity of these visually opaque materials, without destroying, I should have said, them, is a constant engineering challenge. Traditional ultrasound testing requires a liquid coupling medium, which is often incompatible with porous aerospace materials or delicate thermal tiles. Microwave holography. Someone at the door? I think there is. Yeah, it was someone at the door. Do me hopes. Microwave holography serves as a superior alternative for aerospace NDT. Subsurface radars operating in the gigahertz band, like the RASCAN 5 system, can easily penetrate dielectric composites. By recording a multi-frequency radar hologram and applying numerical wavefront back propagation algorithms, engineers can generate high-resolution internal images of aircraft, radomes, and wings. This technology easily identifies hidden defects, water ingress, the delamination within honeycomb pregs, offering a contactless rapid inspection methodology that significantly reduces aircraft manufacturing defects and manufacturing downtime, maintenance downtime. Sorry, I'm really tired. I just thought I'd make this YouTube video because I've only just managed to fucking find the file and put it through an AI. I might even make another one, but it'll be a lot worse. So the holographic cockpit and the loyal wingman swarm. In the realm of combat aviation, holographic projection technology is currently redefining the human-machine interface. The traditional glass plate head-up display HUD is being rapidly superseded by wide-angle holographic waveguide HUDs, such as those integrated into the Dassault Rafale F4, F5 variants, and the advanced F-15E Strike Eagle, and the F-35 Lightning II's helmet-mounted display system. These holographic systems protect critical flight telemetry, multispectral target. Sorry, I've got to go and get a drink of water. My mouth's so fucking dry. Right there. Right, bit of an edit there. Got a glass of water. These holographic systems project critical flight telemetry, multispectral targeting data, and forward-looking infrared imagery directly into the pilot's retinas, superimposed over the physical horizon. The F-35's HMDs essentially allows the pilot to look through the floor of their own aircraft by feeding external camera data directly into the holographic visor. By drastically reducing the pilot's need to look down at the analog instruments, These displays act as a cognitive filter, allowing human operators to manage increasingly complex data-heavy threat environments. This massive expansion of visual bandwidth is absolutely critical for the Department of Loyal Wingman programs, formerly known as collaborative combat aircraft. These modern aircraft warfare doctrines of the US and the UK and allied forces centres on manned or unmanned teaming. Next generation crewed fighters will no longer fight alone. They will act as localised command nodes or quarterbacks, directing swarms of semi-autonomous jet-powered drones such as General Atomics YFQ-42A and Anduril Fury's YFQ-44A. These CCA drones will serve as a forward sensor node, electronic warfare jammers, and expendable missile trucks to effectively command a network of autonomous assets at supersonic speeds. The human plot requires a deeply intuitive 3D spatial awareness of the battle space. Advanced AI and holographic HUDs synthesize the data feeds from the drone swarm, overlaying tactical geometry directly into the pilot's field of view. These transforms the singular pilot from a dogfighter into an interconnected fleet commander. Invisix, the UK-based holographic HUD pioneer, is heavily involved in transitioning this technology from military applications into commercial automotive windshields, providing a massive dual-use product potential from holography. Part 4, the quantum frontier, room temperature masers. While holograms display the data and algorithms process it, the hardware that captures the microwave is also undergoing a renaissance. Just as the laser revolutionized the manipulation of light, the maser microwaved amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. It's long held theoretical promise for the amplification of incredibly weak microwave signals. Historically, masers were relegated to niche applications like deep space communication and radio astronomy because they required extreme cryogenic cooling and massive magnetic fields to function. They were laboratory curiosities, far too bulky and expensive to be placed in an ambulance or a handheld tactical radar. Recent breakthroughs in material science have shattered this limitation. Researchers at Imperial College London and Northumbria University have discovered new materials that allow masers to operate at room temperature. The DAP maser, made from organic, DAP, doped in paratephenyl, as well as an inorganic diamond chrysalis with nitrogen vacancy defects, can achieve maser oscillation at room temperature without the need for bulky magnetic fields. This was something I sort of invented into this thing that's just talking about everyone else's technology, and it's a bit weird. Furthermore, development is underway to pump these solid-state materials not with expensive high-powered lasers, but with highly efficient, low-cost LED-pumped luminescent concentrators. The commercialization of cheap, miniaturized room temperature maser will exponentially amplify the sensitivity of microwave detectors. By integrating room temperature masers into the microwave topographic scanners used for bone imaging, signal to noise ratio would improve dramatically. The promise is to push the resolution. This promises to the limits of microwave bone scanners to rival that of high-end CT machines, enable ultra-sensitive magnetic response by body scanners, and accelerate the development of quantum optical coherence tomography. Part 4, the market dynamics, valuations, and the billion-pound blueprint. So the commercialization of holographic display systems and non-ionizing microwave RF diagnostics represents a convergence of multiple half-growth, multi-billion-pound industries. If a singular company was to successfully patent and package this end-to-end ecosystem, a portable microwave tomographic scanner that outputs directly into a vengeance-free holographic display or orthopedic and tactical use, how much would it be worth? Evaluating the potential worth of such an enterprise requires an analysis of macro market forecasts and recent venture capital activity in the British and global deep tech centres. Here's some macro market forecasts. The baseline target market for non-ionizing bone scanning technology in the global diagnostic imaging sector, but its component technologies overlap with massive adjacent markets. So you've got a load of big numbers here. The global market segment. So you've got diagnostic imaging market, medical X-ray market, head-up display market, and the holographic volumetric display market. At the moment, they're valued at about 20 billion quid, 7.5 billion quid, 5.1 billion quid, and 3 billion quid. Not much really. So projected value in the next 10 years, or in 3 years from 4 years from now, would be about 26 billion quid, 13.5 billion quid, 20.7 billion quid, and 11.8 billion. So the compound annual growth rate, 4.4%, 7.6, 16.8, 13.6 to 30. Valuations converted at an approximate of $79 US, 0.79 to GBP exchange rate for contextual analysis. The medical X-ray and broader diagnostical imaging markets are vast but mature, characterized by steady single-digit growth rates. The incumbents in this space are the behemoths. For example, GE Healthcare reported a full year 25 revenues of $20 billion. That's 16.2 billion quid. In contrast, the hardware mechanism required to execute these non-ionizing scans, namely holographic and volumetric displays, are experiencing explosive double-digit compound annual growth rates. A company that successfully bridges the gap between hardware execution and medical application radiation-free orthopedic imaging, positions itself as a highly disruptive entity capable of capturing immense market share from the legacy OEM giants. Valuation benchmarks, deep taste case studies. More water, please. And some fucking sleep soon. The private equity and venture capital markets provide clear precedents for the valuation of companies mastering spatial computing, optical manipulation, and wave-bending imaging. Envisix, based in Milton Keynes, UK, Envisix is the permanent leader in dynamic holography, focusing primarily on augmented reality head-up displays and the automotive sector. By utilising proprietary laser-based light sources and software-defined broad fields of view, their technology is being integrated into vehicles by General Motors, Jaguar Land Rover, and Hyundai Mobis, following a £78 million, £100 million Series C funding in 23-24. Envisix achieves a post-money valuation of exactly 500 million quid, or 390 million. Sorry, $500,000. I can't read, I'm too tired. That's 390 million quid. This sets a clear floor for a mature holographic intellectual property firm. VidQ, another Cambridge, London-based pioneer. VidQ specialises in computer-generated diffractive holography, solving the divergence accommodation conflicts to deliver 3D projections for gaming, consumer electronics, and augmented reality headsets. Following continuous hardware breakthroughs such as rendering AAA video games in real-time holography and partnering with Jukenwood, whatever the fuck, that's a terrible company name, isn't it? Disbollocks. Disbollocks. The company recently secured $6 million quid. Dollars. No, quid this time. And that in dollars if you want to be fucking yank. Series A extension led by the Foresight Group, bringing the total funding over 24 million. $30 million again. While privately held, scaling deep tech software firms with tier 1 OEM partnerships at this funding stage typically carry valuations between 60 million, 120 million. QLM technology operating in the quantum photonics space out of Cardiff and Bristol. QLM utilises LiDAR and single photon detection to visualise and quantify greenhouse gas leaks. The company raised 12 million Series A round led by industrial Schlumberger. This demonstrates a strong institutional appetite for a novel non-contact wave-based detection system in the UK ecosystems, easily translating into early stage valuations of 40 to 60 million pounds. NanoX Engineering, operating in public markets, NanoX seeks to disrupt traditional radiography through a novel cold cathode digital X-ray source. While it still uses ionizing radiation, the goal of decentralizing medical imaging serves as a strong market parallel. As a publicly traded entity, its market capitalization is highly volatile, dependent on FDA clearances and revenue milestones, though 2024 and 2025, their valuation fluctuated between 240 mil and 430. It's not bad. About 190 million to 340 million, yeah. Projecting the valuation of a holographic bone imaging enterprise in a singular commercial entity that successfully amalgamates these technologies. If it was, I probably will, creating a portable AI-driven microwave tomographic scanner that outputs directly into an interactive volumetric holographic display for orthopedic diagnostics. With dual use potential in defense, its valuation trajectory would be aggressive and highly lucrative. This is what I've made up, and they're not going to, haven't really talked about that in any valuation. So even at seed stage, which basically means, as you would imagine, like a seed, Series A technology valuation would be 40 to 80 million, just because they patented it. So pivoting the efficacy of the inverse scattering algorithms on human tissue and securing initial patents for the antenna arrays would command immediate attention. At this stage, the company would likely raise 10 to 15 million, mirroring QLM technology or VidQ's early rounds, to fund clinical trials and militarize the hardware. Series BC, clinical efficacy and regulatory clearance, it'd be about 300 million to 500 million. Upon proving diagnostic parties with traditional X-rays or fracture detection without the use of ionizing radiation and securing initial regulatory nods for CE marketing, the companies would surge, capturing the attention major medical OEMs or defense contractors looking to utilize the through-wall tactical radar. Intellectual property would mirror the trajectory of Invisics, placing the valuation firmly in the mid-100 millions. Commercialization and acquisition, the unicorn threshold, billion plus. The ultimate financial value of such a company lies in its existential threat to the incumbent 13.5 billion medical X-ray ecosystem. By decentralizing imaging away from expensive lead-lined hospital rooms, moving into ambulances, urgent care clinics, sports arenas, and disaster zones, technology becomes a platform disruptor to acquire the underlying intellectual property, which also holds immense proven value in aerospace NDT, hypersonic tracking, and loyal wingman holographic HUDs. Tier 1 healthcare conglomerates like GE Healthcare, Siemens, and Healthineers, or defence primes like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, who are horrible people, would be forced to bid. This competitive acquisition landscape would easily drive the valuation past the 1 billion unicorn threshold, translating to 800 million quid over 1.2 billion eventually, mirroring the massive premiums paid for elite paradigm-shifting British deep tech firms. The future is volumetric and safe. The reliance on ionizing radiation, two-dimensional flat screens for the evaluation of the three-dimensional human body is an antiquated paradigm rapidly approaching its obsolescence. The traditional form X-ray absorption to microwave dielectric contrast represents a fundamental shift in diagnostic physics. It promises a future of high resolution, completely safe, and infinitely repeatable orthopedic imaging. Simultaneously, the maturation of computational diffractive technology, holography, not technology, ensures the vital data harvested by these safe wavelengths can be projected directly into the physical space of the operating theatre. This eradicates the cognitive bottlenecks of the vergence accommodation conflict. It empowers surgeons with true spatial awareness, fundamentally alters surgical outcomes for the better. Yet the ripples of this technological convergence extend far beyond hospital walls. The mastery of wave propagation, phase manipulation, and spatial computing that allows a doctor to view a holographic bone is exactly the same mastery required to track hypersonic missiles through concrete walls, inspect the molecular integrity of a spacecraft's fuselage, and allow a fighter pilot to seamlessly command a swarm of autonomous drones. As these capabilities evolve from laboratory prototypes to commercially viable products, the deep tech enterprises holding the intellectual property will command valuations commensurate with the staggering scale of the global industries they are destined to disrupt. I'm going to do some more on this project with better talking, better acting, better writing, better videos and all that sort of shit. But as an hour of your life you never get back, so I'm going to go to bed. It's 5:07. Love you, bye.